What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, and we do pick up with Spawn: The Dark Ages, another spin-off series that was given to us in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. Now, this spin-off series was given to us as a way to explore another person who had became a Spawn back in the 12th century. And so we are not going to sit here and talk about Al Simmons, but somebody else who had unfortunately became a Spawn. But the question is, how did he become a Spawn? Who did he make a deal with? And those questions will be answered in today's storyline. And so we are covering the first 4 issues of this series. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we do pick up with a young fellow walking up to a keep where he is confronted by lords and ladies, and he is there to tell them a story. And when he does tell them this story, he says, listen, every single thing I'm about to tell you is the truth. And I want you to know that because this story could get very dark. And he is talking about telling us a story of how the world had a new hellspawn walking upon us. And that is when we are introduced to our new Spawn. Now, we have no idea who the Spawn is yet. All we know is that he has just risen out of the grave. And he also has no idea who he is. Really, as soon as he risen out of the grave, he is flooded with memories of his past life, but not knowing what in the world those images are trying to tell him. And when it comes to our Hellspawn, he does not take long to get to work, because out of nowhere we are introduced to 3 men who are digging up somebody else's grave. And while they're doing that, you do have the 3 men telling us for someone known as Rivelin. And Rivelin is going to be really important in this story. But while you have the 3 men continuing to dig up the grave of this person, they are all killed off in one single blow. And we already know who did that. It's no other than our new Hellspawn. He is already getting to work with killing off people who deserve, in his eyes, to die. We then pick up with a young boy, and with the young boy we do learn how bad this area is when it comes to this world. See, this area is full of people who are starving, who are dying from random illness, but unfortunately when it comes to their lord, the person in charge of their area, he does not try to help them at all. Matter of fact, he's the reason why this area has fallen apart. Now, when it comes to the children, even though their area's, suffering, they're still kids. They want to play. And we do pick up with a young boy known as Peven, who runs into an older fellow. Now, we are going to learn more about this older fellow down the road, but he does ask the young boy Peven, hey, do you know anything about that keep right there? And you have the young boy say, it used to belong to the previous lord, but unfortunately he had died. And his name was Lord Covenant, but no one knows what truly happened to him. But no one goes there because it is haunted now. And when it comes to our mysterious older fellow, he's all like, you said haunted, right? Oh well, I'm still gonna go there either way. We then pick up with the lord of this area, and that would be Rivelin, and I really hope I pronounce his name correctly. Now, Rivelin is the man in charge of this area, so now we know who's at fault for this area falling apart. But apparently he's very upset when it comes to his second man in charge, Dublanc, from not coming back yet from his mission. He sent Dublanc on a mission to find out what happened to the 3 men we saw earlier that were killed off by our new Hellspawn. Now, Dublanc does come back and he says, my lord, I'm sorry to tell you, but the 3 men that you had sent on that mission, they were killed off, except we have no idea who killed them off. somebody cut their heads off clean and fast. Now, we kind of find out when the two men are talking to one another, they're being watched by three sisters. And these three sisters are going to be very important in the middle chapters of today's video. Now, the area that has fallen apart is called Real. Now, when it comes to Real, it used to belong to Lord Covenant, but now belongs to Rivelin. Now, we do jump back over to our Hellspawn, and we see our Hellspawn currently just waking up after each night. And each time he does wake up, he gets flooded with images of hell, seeing different things of hell. And he's wondering what in the world is going on with him. What in the world is he? But at a nearby keep, you do have the people of Real coming together, because every single night, our new Hellspawn screams at the top of his lung from the graveyards. It is heard all over the area of Real. And so now you have the people wondering what in the world they are hearing. Except while you have the people talking, well, they are confronted by Dublink, the second man in charge of Rivelin's kingdom. Now, when it comes to Dublink, and I really hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he wants to know if anybody in that building right now knows who murdered the three men we saw earlier that were killed off by the Hellspawn. Now, every single person inside the keep, they tell him, "We don't know what you are talking about. Nobody here is a murderer." But when it comes to Dublink, he's not trying to listen at all. Now, something else I also want to mention about him is that he believes and knows that he is a very handsome man, that a lot of ladies kind of just fall for him very easily. And so when he walks inside the keep and he sees a lady that he wants, he tries his best to get with her. But he is stopped by the fellow men in the keep. Now, while you have Dublink about to kill those men, well, out of nowhere, his men and him are attacked by our Hellspawn. And our Hellspawn makes sure to cut his face. And so now Dublink's beautiful face is no longer beautiful. And that is very upsetting for him. But no choice now, he has to retreat. But after our Hellspawn was able to deal a blow to Dublink, you then have our Hellspawn head over to the keep that we were told about earlier that is supposedly haunted, that used to belong to Lord Covenant. Except when our spawn arrives, he is confronted by the older fellow we saw earlier that was talking to the young boy. And he says, "Welcome home, Hellspawn. Well, it's about time. I was beginning to think you weren't never going to show up. And it seems like this man is here to help our Hellspawn learn more about his powers." Now, this is where we find out that this is actually Cagliostro. And remember, in the present day, Cagliostro is trying his best to help out Al Simmons to not be a pawn for both hell or heaven. But in the past, well, when it came to Cagliostro, he worked for the devils of hell to help out new Hellspawn to learn more about their powers, to understand what their role is in the bigger picture. Except when it comes to our new Hellspawn, he wants to know, who is he? Not Cagliostro, but himself. And you have Cagliostro begin the process of teaching our young Hellspawn who he was in his past life. And thanks to Cagliostro, we get confirmation that this new Hellspawn is Lord Covenant. Now, when it comes to Lord Covenant, he begins to remember what happened to him. See, he was a great lord, and his people loved him a lot, but he had some sins that he wished to be forgiven for. And so he joined the big Pope War, the war against the Muslims. And when it came to that war, well, he was hoping, because he was fighting in the name of the Lord, that he would be forgiven for his past sins. Except while being in that war, he also showed how great of a warrior he truly was. but he was killed off in the middle of that war. And he was still hoping that even though he died, he will still be welcome in heaven because he fought in the name of the Lord. He's also hoping his sins would be forgiven, except when he arrived in heaven, the angels took him and sent him right down to hell, where he made a deal with a devil. And of course, he became a hellspawn. And once he learns, or really once he remembers all of this, he freaks out and runs away. And Cagliostro, he knows that he'll be back sooner or later. But when he does, Cagliostro is going to be there to help to train him. But we begin to see that in the rest of the area of Real, when it comes to our new hellspawn, he's now known as the Black Knight. But after appearing in what he did to Dublanc, Rivelin began to tighten his grip on his people. Now his people are being penalized for almost anything they do. They're being taxed out of you know what for almost every single item they need to survive. And the people are thinking maybe it's time for us to protest, to possibly try to get rid of the king, to attack him. There's no way that his little army is strong enough to go up against the people of Real. But at the same time, they're too scared to do something about it. But there is a reason why Rivelin is acting a certain kind of way. See, when it comes to Rivelin, we kind of find out that his wife is dying, and he has been trying his best to find anybody in the kingdom who's a great doctor who could possibly explain her mysterious sickness, but unfortunately, nobody can. And so he has to watch his wife die. Now, his wife is going to play an important role here in a moment, but we have to move on. But we also kind of find out that he did make a deal with a certain group of people. Matter of fact, the three sisters of the Morrigan, and I really hope I pronounced that name correctly. Now, we saw these three ladies earlier, but apparently the deal was that when it came to Rivelin, he would give them a boon. In return, they would be able to heal his wife. But unfortunately, he has not delivered on his part of the promise. And so now they're trying to help him to make sure that he is able to achieve what he was told to do. And they give him a helmet, a helm, with a skull face on the front and two horns, and say, use this as a way to help you deliver on our promise. But then we have to jump back over to our hellspawn. See, when it comes to our hellspawn, he's just trying to clear his mind because he just learned that even though he was fighting in the name of the Lord, he was still sent to hell, and he has no idea why. But while trying to clear his mind, well, he was grabbed by the three sisters, and they began to dive deep into his mind. And unfortunately, when it comes to our new hellspawn, he has not had the chance to learn everything about his newfound powers, but also when it comes to the sisters, they begin to pull out those memories that were deep in his mind, and this is where he begins to remember everything, but we also learn more about the character. Now, while you have Spawn being held by the three sisters, we learn that the people of Real are beginning the process of trying to rebel against their leader, of course being Rivelin. But the problem is they're still too scared because in recent days, ever since the Black Knight had arrived, our new Spawn here, well, things have been a whole lot harder on them. People are being hung for the smallest reasons when it comes to laws being broken. And now when it comes to Dublanc, he's loving the idea of the punishments that he's giving people across Real. And so now the people have no choice but to begin the process of leaving or trying to rebel against their leader. But let's shift our focus back onto Spawn because that's really more important here. You see, when it comes to Spawn, while being held by the three sisters, they're trying their best to pull out all the different secrets about Spawn and his powers, except we're also learning more about him. For example, before he left for the war, we kind of find out that he had a lover, a woman that he loved so much, but the problem was she was a peasant, technically, when it came to the overarching system of their lands. She was working for his sister, but he didn't care. He loved her a lot, except he had no idea that she was pregnant, because by the time that she found out, and it seems that she was going to tell him, he left for the war. Now, he also learns that she died while she was giving birth to their child. And we're not told what exactly happened to the child, except to her. But we also kind of find out he gave her some kind of cross. And the cross seems to be very important for the overall story of the Spawn, the Dark Ages. But now I want to shift our focus back to Spawn and the war, because when it came to Spawn, we learned that he only went into that war because he believed that he was fighting in the name of the Lord, except he also realized other people were trying to make that claim, but they really weren't doing that. You see, you had people out there killing random innocent people who were on the other side, who were just minding their business. And when they killed off those innocent people, they said they were doing it in the name of the Lord. When they had sexually assaulted women, again, they said they were doing it in the name of the Lord. And it really bothered him. But at the same time, while being in that war, and because of his past mistakes, his sins were just raking up left and right. But unfortunately, he just kept pushing on. Now, while the three sisters are trying their best to pull out all the different secrets, this is where you have our new Spawn learn about one of his abilities, the ability to teleport. He was able to get away and head back over to Cagliostro. Now, once you have Spawn being able to go back to Cagliostro, this is Spawn saying, I was their lord. I was the leader of this land, which means I should come back and take over once again. Now, when it comes to Cagliostro, that's not their goal, or really, that's not Hellspawn's new goal. See, Spawn's new goal is to do the bidding of Hell, or possibly for somebody else. But either way right now, to be here and to be a leader of a land that you used to own your past life is not the goal at the moment. But Spawn wonders, why are you saying that though, Cagliostro? But before we are able to get that answer, we jump back over to Rivelin. And unfortunately, when we do, his wife dies. And when his wife dies, it breaks him to the point where he's about to go to war. But while you have Rivelin getting ready to go to war, well, you have Spawn begin to spread the rumors of the idea that Lord Covenant has returned. His goal is to lead his army against Rivelin's army to take back his lands. And the small boys that he talked to, they spread the rumors around everywhere, to the point where he was able to build up an army to now fight against the forces of Rivelin. And when it comes to Rivelin, he does tell DuBlanc, go ahead, kill them all, and also find the Black Knight and kill him as well. Kill everybody who stands in your way. And when it comes to DuBlanc, he's down with the idea. He wants to give people the death wish. He also wants to go after the Black Knight and to kill him off to what he has done to his pretty face. And so now the war is set up. And when it comes to Cagliostro, he tries one more time to tell Spawn, you are a fool. This is not the time for you to be a leader again. You have a different goal set up for you that we need to focus on. But when it comes to our Spawn here, he does not care. He realized his people need him. And the war is about to begin. Now, as we dive into the big war, I kind of want to focus on DuBlanc because, remember, his face was scarred, but that's not where I want to focus on. See, where it comes to DuBlanc, he's wearing the helmet that was given over to Rivelin by the three sisters because, again, he promised them a boon, and they gave him that helmet to hopefully help him continue on his promise. And so when it came to the helmet, he gave it over to DuBlanc, who is currently fighting against Spawn. And you have the two guys fighting against each other, except Spawn is just too strong for DuBlanc, to the point where it seems like Spawn might be able to kill him off. But Spawn doesn't. But while being distracted, you have DuBlanc being able to stab Spawn, but because Spawn's a Hellspawn, that stab wound technically does nothing to him. Now, you do have fellow soldiers of Spawn wondering, should they follow after DuBlanc? And he says no, let him go. And he's gone in the wind for the time being. Now, after Spawn is able to win the war, well, it's time for him to have that one-on-one conversation with Revelin. And when it comes to Revelin, he tells Spawn why he had, did the things he did to this land. And he tells Spawn, I did everything for your sister, my wife. Well, we kind of find out Spawn and Revelin, well, they are actually brother-in-laws. But the reason why Revelin kind of fell down a dark path is because he wanted to save the life of his wife, Spawn's sister. And now Spawn knows that he lost his sister as well, along with his wife. But then you have Spawn have a sit down with Cagliostro. And when it comes to their conversation, it's really more of Spawn telling Cagliostro about the cross I mentioned earlier, a very special kind of cross. See, it used to belong to Spawn's mother, but apparently he gave it over to Cheyenne, the woman he loved, before he had went into the war in his past life. But he tells Cagliostro, if I had known that she was pregnant, I wouldn't have left for the war. I would have stayed behind to be with her. But unfortunately, I left and she died. And we're left to wonder still what happened to that child, though. But either way, you have Cagliostro saying that is your past life. Her, your kingdom, your child, that's your past life. It's now time for you to go on a new path, a new life. But you have Spawn say, not right now. I need to go somewhere on my own. And so he walks away, and we're left to wonder, where is he going to go? But getting back over to the man from the very beginning of our video, the one that was telling the entire story, well, we see that he has the cross that Spawn is talking about. But the story ends with Spawn kind of watching over him, and the guy had just finished telling his story. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.